specific acts of genocide. What the Genocide Convention does do is provide us with a vocabulary which, as long as it's not used recklessly but is used carefully, allows us to highlight particular crimes, particular abominations that may take place within the international order, and to press states that are also parties to that convention to take account of these developments when they seek to interact with actors that might be seen as perpetrators. But the starting point is it will always be a careful appraisal of the legal meaning of genocide within the terms of the 1948 Convention, and then an empirical analysis of what has actually happened in a particular country, so that you can determine whether what we're witnessing is actually genocide or whether it is gross human rights violations, which may nonetheless legally fall still short of genocide. It's harder to bring a long history to play in an organisational framework, because bodies like the United Nations and other international institutions tend to be focused on what's happening here and now. If there is a very long history of a group's having been persecuted, that may help put in context what is happening now. And certainly you need to be very wary of looking at, say, killings of Hazaras in Afghanistan and going down to the micro level and saying, well, in this case we have no particular evidence that shows that this was a killing based on race, and therefore we should be neutral about it. There's no saying if it talks like a duck and it squawks like a duck, it's a duck. So you see large numbers of Hazaras being killed in a range of incidents. Even if the perpetrators haven't held up a flag saying, I'm here to kill Hazaras, you can be pretty confident that that's what's going on. And you can certainly make a very strong case about the dangers that people face. I'm not myself convinced that there's an obvious venue to which one could, at the moment, take a claim about genocide. I think it's better to use the language that the Convention provides in order to sensitise people to the very real dangers that people face in Afghanistan if they come from Hazara. John Martins.
Yes. One of the things that I can see in this room is that one of the assets that the communities in Hazara have is that as a result of the refugee experience that they have gone through, there is across a whole lot of countries, a whole lot of groups of Hazara, an important diaspora, which I think is a tremendous asset in terms of exerting, I suppose, putting pressure on different governments. So I'm going to cheat a bit, with your permission, because the question that comes to my mind is how we can best harness that resource, how we can best use not just the diaspora in Australia, but the diaspora across the world, and what may be the best places in which to apply that pressure.
A significant number of leaders who can make very positive contribution in Australia, like in Pakistan, but it can also be positive leaders. And I think following from like my friend Jamal was saying earlier, there is a need to be able to express your anger, your frustration on what is happening in Afghanistan, what the Taliban are doing, on ways in which the Afghan government is failing, the international community is not responding adequately, but also making sure that these communities have meaningful ways of engagement. So I think, over time, one of the best ways in which to look is how other communities in Australia have more successful experiences of being successful integrated here, but also playing a kind of positive role between the two countries. In that respect, maybe the community organizations like yours that have experience of working with different communities can look into possibilities of different ways and opportunities of how to navigate the kind of complexity Because I can see, the communities here, they are increasingly very deeply involved in what's happening back there. Ghazni, over the past few days, have been raising huge concerns across the communities, everyone here. At the same time, people have a huge interest in staying here. So the key thing is how to make a balance. You find a way of releasing that kind of anger and the frustration you feel, but at the same time, finding those kind of strategic opportunities to make successful intervention. Thank you.
I think one thing that's very important in taking up this opportunity is to find partner organisations outside Hazara circles who share the human rights commitments that underpin frustration at the kind of atrocities that have occurred in Afghanistan. And to give you a very practical example, on Friday last week, there was a hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade of the Australian Parliament. And the testimony from the Refugee Council of Australia was given in part by a staff member of the Refugee Council and in part by a member of the Hazara community who spoke with incredible power and authenticity to the members of the Parliament. And I think that the authenticity of the voice of people who come from within communities themselves is one of the most effective ways of conveying a message. Because it's one thing for an academic like me to go to a parliamentary hearing and I can talk in an analytical fashion about what's happened in particular countries, but it doesn't carry the same weight as somebody who is testifying to their own lived experience. Now, obviously, if you're going to give that kind of testimony, that needs to be done with care and precision so that every claim you make is documented and can be supported if people come back and demand evidence, things like that. But you have voices that are really important in these circumstances, and you have people in the community who have that skill of articulating concerns that allow them to speak to a much wider audience than just a particular community. There are actually all sorts of potential outlets that can be exploited to give voice to these concerns.
Thank you, Clearly, I lack the in-depth specialist knowledge of your community that the speakers here have, that you have themselves. In general and in principle, I would encourage you to make yourself as easy to reach out to and articulate with as possible. And that means modelling the best practice of representing all sections of the community. In particular, women. I've become increasingly concerned that this has been a very male-dominated affair, and I know I'm guilty of that now myself at this very moment. But there are two very useful examples, I think, again from UK politics, which are campaigns being done with very little resource but very good effect, called hashtag Ask Her to Stand and hashtag Ask Her to Apply, based on the principle that women may be, there may be women who are extremely well qualified either to assume office or to take on important posts in the community, but for various reasons are less disposed to thrust themselves forward than less qualified men. So that is something which really does need to be addressed on a basis tonight.
Very briefly, Dr. Ozowski, the question was asked what the Hazara community can do to register the genocide against them. And I think you can ask a more fundamental question of to what end? And what do you hope to gain that is of such strategic importance that you want to expend energy and expertise and resources in registering a genocide that I'm assuming you're alluding to that happened in 1891-93? I think considering what is happening in Ghazni, considering what is happening in other parts of the country, in the streets of Dashtibachi, voter registration centers and elsewhere, I think the question can be asked is, what can we do now? And one thing that you learn as you go, I live in Washington, D.C., if you visit the National Holocaust Memorial and Museum, is that there is incredibly rich documentation of the Holocaust in the 1940s. And if you were to look up to what's happening in Ghazni and to find evidence of genocide or even targeted persecution, it is incredibly hard to find that evidence. We, as Hazaras and Afghans as a nation, have an oral tradition, but we need to also develop a tradition of documentation of what is happening to us in our communities across the world and across our existences in Afghanistan. Because when you are going to register the genocide, you are going to have to present evidence. And evidence only comes when you document what is happening to you. And I think as the diaspora in Australia, you actually are not locked in a battle for survival, unlike other people in Afghanistan. You have the space to breathe, to think about things such as documentation and presentation and preservation. And I think that's a task that the community could work on. That's, I think, probably more important.
Yes.
20 seconds, just following what Shuja has just said, and I don't know whether to cry at this story. A migration agent last night, I know, put up a report of an interview he'd attended with one of his clients, at which the immigration officer had said, "It's a pity you didn't bring a photograph of your dead partner with you. You would have had evidence."
Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's not a note to finish the panel, but this concludes our question and answer panel. So please, thank you very much to Jorge Aroche, to Dr. Ibrahimi, to Professor Mali, to Professor Lynch, and to Mr. Jamal. Thank you very much. There will be opportunity to discuss a bit further with them during the dinner. But could I ask now Ziba Gulazari just to say a few final words on behalf of the community, and then I will say goodbye to you, and then there will be one more person to tell you something about the dinner. Ziba, come on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I must say it is an honor to be invited to speak here tonight. On behalf of Hazara Human Rights Forum Working Committee and Hazara community in particular, I would like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to our sponsors, SSI, staff, Western Sydney University Department of Equity and Diversity, our Aboriginal elder Uncle Greg Sims, our guest speakers, Dr. Namatullah Ibrahimi, Professor William Manley, Associate Professor Jack Lynch, Mr. Ahmad Shuja Jamal, Ms. Yamama Agha, Mr. Jorge Aroche, Ms. Dorothy Hodiner, Dr. Sif Ozdioski, our event organizers, Katebe Hazara Association, Human Care Welfare and Forum Working Group members, and each and every individual who participated tonight. One of the emerging Hazara historian, Mr. Abbas Diljo, who is present tonight with us, so thank you, and we really thank you for your presence here. Such a brilliant event would not happen without time, dedication, and support of everyone involved. As we have heard tonight, that Hazara ethnic group who are still subjected to systematic persecution, violence, and outright killing. However, tonight I would say that with all what has happened to us, but still we have shown such resilience, strength, and determination, which was displayed as a form of highly progressive community in Australia. Australia, you can back me up, as with only 20 years of history in this country, still with first generation, we have given back doctors, engineers, other high-level professionals in many different fields of life. Hazaras have also excelled in many sports such as athletics, soccer, martial arts, and so many other sports. Ladies and gentlemen, Afghanistan and Pakistan have become a killing field of people in recent years. But one community that has suffered the most and are mercilessly killed are Hazaras, with no reaction by those with power to protect them. The uncertain situation to stay back to die in conflict region or live and take risks to be alive prompted the young generation to migrate to the West. With all this migration, of course, there is a consequences. People moving around the different country, which will have a impact on the community living in Australia. It includes family separation, constant fear, and worry about their family and loved ones overseas, anxiety, medium to severe mental health issues, suicide, social isolation. We also know that in recent years, Australian government policy changes created an additional punishment and hardship for Hazara community seeking asylum. What these policies brought? An added fear of involuntary return to the country of origin. And also rejection in protection for those who were granted temporary protection have to continue many more years in limbo and less likely to meet the next protection criteria due to visa requirements. Hazaras are also facing several years of delays to get their citizenship. Speaking honestly, of course, these policies will inhibit or reduce the likelihood of family reunion and will negatively impact on mental health and well-being of individuals living in Australia and family remaining in overseas. Speaking from my own experience, this forum has opened up more of what was happening, the systematic genocide, the consequences of forced displacement, trauma, the impact of living in limbo in detention, mental health, and so many other unheard and unspoken issues. With this conference, we have taken our first step, but we have to work together to achieve our goal in the future. As now we have created an extended community, as our guest speakers mentioned. We have connected through this process, and we have many thoughts and thinking together. Through this conference, we also have discovered so many interesting points of reference and diverse views. Lastly, I will say that we have faced to die or do things in the past, stand or fall. But to be honest, we have done it. We arose and we stood up, and we will do it again with help and guidance of you all. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ziba. Before I will invite Yamama to offer final remarks, allow me to say that it was a particular pleasure to work with your community to organize this forum. It was really fantastic. It, in a way, reminds me a bit of working with Polish community after martial law and when we were getting plenty of refugees coming here. We usually organize this open forum once a month. This one possibly the last one this year, and it is because we are organizing a major conference on human rights education. We distributed this kind of a pamphlet for you, so you know what's happening. It will be international conference. There will be people coming from all over around the world. If you're interested in coming, and if you can't afford the registration fee, because usually you need to register to this kind of a conference, send me an email and let's talk. We'll see what I could do for you. And then, of course, we'll resume our open forum next year. Thank you very much to all of you, and I already thank the speaker. Allow me to say thank you to my staff, to Melinda Blackmore, and to Michelle Falconer, who are there. Sophie Boris, who was helping, isn't here because she's working on the conference, as I can tell it. And thank you very much. And if I could now to ask you to come and conclude and tell us something about good food, which is awaiting us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
To express my appreciation to everyone who made today's forum a success. Congratulations. In bringing together this group to discuss the plight of the Hazara people, we've taken a valuable step in informing Australians of what it means to be Hazara on today's global stage. The ongoing human rights abuses in Afghanistan and assumed countries of refuge like Pakistan and Iran have far-reaching consequences. Australia, as a destination of safety, security, and support for Hazara people, must recognize its responsibilities to advocate for their well-being at a global level. Identifying the root causes of Hazara refugee movements is a critical part of today's forum. Persecution by groups such as the Taliban and ISIS, disproportionate government investment in regional infrastructure, attacks on social activism gatherings to discourage change, have all played key roles in displacing Hazara individuals and communities. Another critical aspect and concept explored in today's forum is that the atrocities and ongoing uncertainty faced by Hazara people around the world has a profound effect on the individuals, families, and communities who have come to call Australia home. Today, by shedding light on the persecution and discrimination that the Hazara people face, we, as members of the Australia's academia, media, and social support services, can move forward with a clearer understanding and a greater resolve to meet the needs of Hazara settling in Australia. Supporting the Hazara people in Australia requires a holistic view. Because while vast deserts and oceans may separate the Hazara communities physically, our global connectivity demands we remain sensitive to their ongoing exposure to their people's trauma experience around the world. Tonight has been the culmination of years of work and wouldn't have been possible without the dedication of our Hazara friends and the support of tonight's partners, especially Western Sydney University, who have hosted us all. Please also join me in thanking the volunteers who did the hard work and had to keep tonight running so well. Finally, it's my pleasure to thank everyone here with us tonight once again for your contributions to our discussion. Your input will be invaluable in supporting Hazara people both in Australia and around the world. And now, in closing, please join us to have a meal outside, or it's here inside now, and take this opportunity to ask any questions from any of our panelists here